Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise, stack up the insights, and deliver the critical nuggets you need to be truly well-informed. Today, we're diving deep into a legal framework that underpins an entire sector, South Africa's Nonprofit Organizations Act of 1997.
Yeah, it's fascinating, really. Every society relies on its nonprofits, these organizations tackling everything from education to healthcare.
Mhm.
But the question is, how do you empower them to thrive while also, protecting against misuse and ensuring they're truly serving the public good?
That's the tightrope walk, isn't it?
Exactly. And that's the delicate balance South Africa aimed for with its, pretty groundbreaking Nonprofit Organizations Act, Act 71 of 1997. Came into law late 97.
Okay, so what's our mission for this deep dive? We're going to unravel how this foundational law tried to strike that exact balance, creating a nurturing environment for NPOs, letting them flourish, while also building a robust administrative and regulatory framework. It's a shortcut, really, to understanding the nuts and bolts of how these essential organizations operate. Okay, let's unpack this. So the preamble of this act, it lays its cards on the table right away.
It does.
States its intent to foster an environment for NPOs, establish a clear regulatory framework, even repealing parts of an older law, the Fundraising Act of 1978. But before we get to the how, let's start with the absolute bedrock. What exactly is a nonprofit organization under this act?
Right, that's the crucial starting point. The Act defines an NPO as a trust, company, or other association of persons established for a public purpose. And here's where it gets really interesting and why this law was so vital for South Africa at the time. Its income and property are not distributable to its members or office bearers.
Except as reasonable pay for work done.
Exactly. Reasonable compensation for services rendered.
This isn't just dry legalese, is it? It feels like the core, the DNA of the act.
It really is.
It immediately flags that core principle, public benefit over private gain. For you, our listener, this means the law is built on ensuring every rand, every resource, genuinely serves the community, not, individual pockets.
A fundamental firewall for public trust.
Yeah, especially important in a nation with a history of, resource allocation challenges and a deep need for transparent public service.
Precisely. And to manage and oversee this delicate ecosystem, the Act wisely established a dedicated body, the Directorate for Nonprofit Organizations.
Okay.
This directorate operates within the national department responsible for welfare and is led by a director who's an employee of that department.
Now, I think most listeners might assume this directorate is just about paperwork, registration forms.
Uh-huh.
But tell us, what are their actual powers and responsibilities? Do they go beyond just registration? What's maybe the biggest surprise about their role?
Oh, they are far more than just a registration office, much more. Their mandate is incredibly broad, really impactful. Think of them almost like the architects and guardians of the whole NPO ecosystem.
Okay.
They drive policy development. They implement programs that support NPOs, both in getting registered and maintaining high governance standards. They build crucial partnerships with other state organs, interested parties.
So liaising as well.
Definitely. And they even prepare and issue vital guidance. Documents things like model constitutions, codes of good practice for NPOs and donors. And all of this has to be published in the Government Gazette.
Which is basically South Africa's official record for public notices, new laws, that kind of thing.
That's the one. So it's all out there.
And with such significant powers, transparency is obviously key, which is why I suppose the minister's annual reporting to Parliament on the directorate's activities is so crucial.
Absolutely vital. Keeps everyone accountable.
But what happens when things go wrong? Or, disputes arise? How does the act ensure fair play and resolution?
Right. Well, that's where the panel of arbitrators comes in. The minister appoints a panel, at least 7 people, including a chairperson, and it's done through a public nomination process.
Public nomination.
Yeah. Ensures broad representation, builds trust. When disputes come up, an arbitration tribunal, usually up to 3 panel members appointed by the chair, can be set up to resolve them.
So an independent mechanism.
Exactly. Designed to uphold fairness.
Okay, so for many organizations thinking about formalizing their work, the big question is always, why bother registering? What are the actual benefits beyond just getting a certificate?
Well, the Act does allow the minister to prescribe specific benefits, maybe potential tax exemptions, access to certain government grants, things like that.
Right.
But I think the real universal value lies in the legitimacy and the structured framework that registration provides. It simply opens doors.
And who can apply?
Any NPO that isn't an organ of state can apply to register formally.
Okay, so if you're involved with an NPO, maybe listening now and thinking about this, what are the core requirements? What does the constitution of an NPO absolutely have to include to qualify?
Yeah, the Constitution needs to be pretty comprehensive. It acts as a clear blueprint for accountability, really. It must state the organization's name and objectives. And crucially, it has to reiterate that its income and property are not distributable to members, except for, that reasonable compensation.
Back to that core principle.
Always back to that.
Yeah.
It also needs to establish the organization as a body corporate with its own distinct identity.
Meaning it's its own legal entity.
Precisely. Separate from its members, gives it independent legal standing, continuity even if members change, and it has to specify members have no rights in the property just because they're members. Plus, practical things. Financial transactions must go through a banking account. Clear procedures for changing the Constitution. Winding up, dissolving.
And what happens to the assets if it does dissolve?
Ah, good point. It must specify that any remaining assets get transferred to another NPO with similar objectives upon dissolution. It's about ensuring the resources stay within the public benefits sector.
It demands clarity, accountability from start to finish.
That's the idea.
That's a lot of detail, but it sounds like a necessary foundation for building trust. How does an organization actually go about applying once they have that constitution sorted?
The application itself is fairly straightforward. You submit a prescribed form, 2 copies of the Constitution, and any other info the director might need to check compliance. The director then has 2 months to assess it.
2 months. Okay.
If they're satisfied, they register the MPO, enter its name in the register, issue a certificate with a unique registration number.
And if there are issues?
Then they send a written notice explaining the problems, giving the applicant a month to comply, though that can be extended if there's a good reason.
And what if registration is ultimately refused? Is that just it? End of the line?
Oh, no, absolutely not. An MPO has the right to appeal that decision to an arbitration tribunal. They've got 1 month to lodge the appeal.
Back to the tribunal.
Yep. The tribunal reviews the appeal within 3 months, and if they uphold the appeal, the director must then register the organization.
So there's recourse.
Definitely. And once registered, that certificate is solid proof. Proof the MPO met the requirements, is properly registered, and is a legal body corporate.
And they have to show this status.
Yes, it's a requirement for registered MPOs to display their registered status and that unique registration number on all their official documents.
So getting registered is a huge step, but it sounds like it's definitely not a set it and forget it situation.
Not at all.
What are the ongoing responsibilities for registered MPOs? What does this act require to ensure they stay transparent and accountable?
Right. This is where the framework really embeds that transparency. Every registered MPO has to maintain proper accounting records following generally accepted accounting practices.
Standard stuff, okay.
Within 6 months of their financial year end, they must prepare detailed financial statements, income and expenditure, balance sheet. Then, within 2 months after that, an independent accounting officer, like an auditor or a qualified financial professional, has to compile a written report.
And what's in that report?
It confirms whether the financial statements match the records, if the accounting policies are appropriate, and critically, if the organization complied with the financial rules of the Act and its own constitution.
That reporting duty sounds quite rigorous. But then there's this incredible detail about the accounting officer's role. It's almost like they're an internal watchdog.
It is, yeah.
What's the actual impact of that specific duty where they have to report non-compliance even if it breaches confidentiality?
Well, this is a major safeguard, a really significant one. If an accounting officer becomes aware of any non-compliance with the financial rules of the Act or the NPO's constitution,
Any ad.
all,
Any.
they must notify the director in writing within 1 month. And the Act explicitly states this duty to report overrides any duty of confidentiality they might owe the organization.
Wow.
It's a powerful mechanism designed to prevent financial issues or mismanagement from being swept under the rug. Public interest comes first.
That is a significant safeguard. Okay, beyond these financial reports, what other information do MPOs need to provide regularly to the directorate?
They also have to submit a narrative report of their activities, what they've actually been doing.
Okay.
That goes in along with their financial statements and the accounting officer's report, all within 9 months of their financial year end. Plus, they need to provide the names and addresses of their office bearers whenever there's a change within a month of an appointment or election.
Keeping track of who's in charge.
Exactly. and notify the director of any change in their physical address at least a month before it happens. The director can scrutinize all these documents, ask for more info, just to ensure compliance.
What happens if an organization doesn't meet these ongoing requirements or, say, deviates from its own constitution?
The director steps in. They'll issue a written compliance notice, clearly outlining the problem and the required steps to fix it. Gives them 1 month to comply, with possible extensions.
And if they don't comply?
If they fail to comply within that time frame, or, and this is important, if they make material false representations in any submitted document, the director must cancel their registration.
Must cancel, not may.
Must cancel. All rights and benefits stop immediately.
Harsh but clear. Can they appeal that?
Yes, the MPO can appeal the cancellation to an arbitration tribunal, just like with the initial registration refusal.
Okay. And what about organizations that just stop? Maybe they achieve their goal or run out of funds or just want to deregister voluntarily. How does the Act handle that?
There's a process for that too.
Yeah.
A registered MPO can voluntarily deregister by sending written notice at least 2 months ahead of time, along with all the required reports up to that point. And if an MPO winds up or dissolves, they also have to notify the director within 1 month, providing certified documents and reports.
So closing the loop properly.
Exactly. The director then formally cancels the registration and updates the public register. This ensures the public always has accurate, up-to-date info on which MPOs are active and in good standing.
How transparent is this whole system then? Can the public actually access information about specific NPOs? It sounds like transparency is baked in.
Yes, absolutely. Public access is a cornerstone of this act. The director must preserve the Constitution's all reports, all documents submitted by registered, canceled, or voluntarily deregistered NPOs for a set period.
And can anyone see them?
Any member of the public has the right to access and inspect these documents. The minister just prescribes the specific circumstances and how you access them. Plus, for broad transparency, the director has to annually publish in the Gazette and other widely circulated media the names of all currently registered MPOs and those whose registrations were canceled or voluntarily deregistered in the past year.
So it really empowers public oversight.
That's the goal.
Okay, so what does all this mean for accountability in practice? What are the real consequences if organizations or individuals just don't play by these rules?
Well, the act is very clear on offenses. For example, it's an offense to wrongly transfer an NPO's remaining assets when it's winding up.
Right, that handover needs to be proper.
Exactly. Or to falsely claim you're a validly registered NPO when you're not. Using a registration number or certificate without actually being registered is also an offense. And making material false representations in any documents you submit to the director, that's a big one too.
And the penalties.
Anyone convicted under this act faces serious consequences: fines, imprisonment, or potentially both. The message is pretty clear. Integrity is non-negotiable.
And just to tie this back to the bigger picture, this act didn't just appear out of thin air. It replaced older legislation. How did it handle all those existing organizations already operating under the old Fundraising Act of 1978? Must have been thousands.
Yeah, that's what's really quite fascinating about the transitional arrangements. It wasn't just about writing a new law. It was about smoothly transitioning potentially thousands of existing organizations without causing total chaos.
A tricky operation.
Very. But this act cleverly built a bridge from the old fundraising laws. Existing fundraising organizations were generally considered registered under the new NPO Act automatically, but
There's always a but.
there's always a but. They had a crucial 2-year window to formally apply for registration under the new framework, meeting the new requirements.
So a grace period to get aligned.
Exactly. And the new director of NPOs also took over the functions of the old director of fundraising. Any pending applications or appeals under the old system were just rolled into the new Act's procedures.
Smart. Ensuring continuity and stability.
Right, rather than forcing a complete disruptive reboot on the entire sector.
What a deep dive. We've really unpacked the Nonprofit Organizations Act of 1997. From its core purpose, encouraging NPOs while setting up a robust regulatory framework, to all those details about registration, ongoing compliance, and the critical role of transparency. We've seen how it tries to balance enabling growth with strict accountability.
It really highlights the careful thought that went into fostering a vibrant civil society, while at the same time safeguarding against potential abuse. This act offers a pretty comprehensive model, how a government can empower its nonprofit sector to really thrive, making sure public trust stays right at the heart of it.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it raises an important question, perhaps for you, our listener. Considering how absolutely vital MPOs are for tackling such diverse societal needs,
Uh-huh.
how might this specific blend of enablement and, let's face it, pretty strict regulation, as laid out back in the 1997 Act, how might that inform how we think about supporting and strengthening these kinds of organizations in other places, or even evolving these frameworks today?
Yeah, that's a great question. How do you keep that balance right as society changes?
Something to mull over as you go about your day. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.